Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to another Blender tutorial for our class. Now this tutorial will be a little bit different to the ones I've done so far. In this tutorial, I'm not going to show you how to make this exact animation for a few reasons. One, I think there's a temptation to just copy exactly what I do as a way to learn. And really, I think you should all be getting to the point where after you've copied the tutorial, you take that new knowledge and you make it into your own stuff. And so this rolls into the second reason that I'm not going to show you how to make this, which is that I'm going to link in the description of this video much more sort of professional tutorials that show you how to make all of the components of this demonstration that I've made for you here. Really what we're looking at here is me just grabbing a few different types of simulations from Blender, from some other demonstrations that other people have made, and putting them all together in a video, really just to give you an idea of what, how much more broadly you can think of what you might do in Blender, how you can transform this into an expressive tool that can become a part of whatever your final project is going to be. So in this very short video, I'll just very quickly run through what all of the things are in this video, and I will tell you, where they link in the videos that I've put in the description. Okay, so let's just pop across into Blender. So first of all, so this is my scene. If I press play, you'll kind of see the whole thing starts to run. Obviously it runs a little bit more slowly in person, and I think looks like I might need to re-bake my particles, or maybe one of my turbulence systems has gone a bit haywire. But okay, I'll just show you one thing at a time what's going on here. The first thing I did is I put in this curved background just to give a nice soft background to my work. It's basically just a plane where I think I just extruded up the one side of it, and then I just grabbed the middle part and beveled it a whole bunch of times. Let me just turn that up, something like that, and then I probably just set it to right click and smooth shade, and that's just how I made that little backdrop. And it's a convenient thing to do just as much in photography as it is in 3D if you want sort of a soft background with no obvious shadows or anything like that. So that's the background. Now, one simulation at a time. Now see here, I've kept my scene nice and clean. I've grouped all of my different simulations into different groups. Remember, if you forget how to group things, you just shift select a few things, press M, and then you can create a new collection, give it whatever name you want, or put it in one of the collections you've already made. But okay, so I'll turn them all off, and so this is what I'm starting with, my trusty repetitive tile box that I like using just because I think it looks nice. So the first one I made is the particle system. The particle system comes directly from the YouTube video that I've linked in the description. I haven't really changed it at all, just because I wasn't being very creative. I just wanted to make the demonstration. So much like in the other video, it's, I think I just added a few more. I just duplicated them, but it's a bunch of spheres that when I press play, they start emitting these particles. And the particles are going out in this pattern because they're being influenced by what's called a turbulence field. That's what these things are here. And the other thing I've done is I've changed the colors on the particles a little bit. So the particles are actually grabbing instances from these cubes here, these glowing cubes that I've got hidden off to the side. And if you can see subtly, this one's kind of green, this one's a bit more pink, this one's a bit more greeny yellow, and that one's a bit more orange. And so that is where the colors of my particle system are coming from. So if you want to learn how to do a particle system, you should look at the particle system tutorial that I've put in the description of this video. And remember that once you get started with particle systems, I'm happy to give you advice and help troubleshoot as you go along. The purpose of a video like this is to show you that there's many more things you can learn to do in Blender, and probably too many for me to bother making a video for all of them. There's some really incredible creative educators on YouTube making videos for all sorts of things in Blender. So I think now is the time for you to start investigating for yourself what creative approaches might be right for you. And then in class time, of course, I will be there to answer your questions and help you develop your own interests. So, okay, particle systems, that's the first one. Now, one other thing actually, before I leave particle systems, is here, the particle system, it's not really doing that much that's that interesting, but the potential here is, quite great. We can do a lot of things. As I showed you in the last Mixtape tutorial, we can use music and sound recordings to drive animations. So for example, these particle emitters don't have to stand still. They could be moving using F-curves, just as we moved the buildings in the previous Mixtape video, or even the way that the particles are emitted could also be controlled and keyframed by music. So remember, in Blender, pretty much any time you see, if I go into the system here, if this is my particle system, there will be so many, data entry boxes here that we could keyframe, and keyframe using music, or just keyframe according to the timeline. So think of every little system here as highly modifiable, and if you have an idea and want to try it out, go for it. Make something that maybe no one's ever thought of before. That'd be super cool. Okay, so I'll close the particle system. The second thing in this video are these fluid simulations, which also look super cool. We can make things that look like water, or we can make thicker fluids. If I go back to the beginning, I think I left this set on a water default, so it's kind of runny. We could have the fluid be a lot thicker and be behaving like slime, or I don't know, whatever a thicker fluid is. I've also got this pink color on it, which I could change. That's also just the shader that I'm using on my fluid system. If I go into my fluid volume here, I could change this to green or to white, or I could make it more smooth and shiny, or I could make it more milky and opaque. So all of the things we've learned in shading we can apply to these fluids. And as you'll see in the fluid system video that I've attached, a fluid system usually has two main components. One is the thing that emits the fluid, and the other is the thing that contains the fluid. So you can see here that when my fluid simulation runs, it doesn't run everywhere. I've kept it inside this box, and so there's actually a sort of an invisible box here that is containing all the fluids. And you can learn how to do all of that in the video that I've attached. Fluid simulations, I find, can be a little bit tricky. Sometimes you think you've set up everything perfectly and then it just doesn't work. When it comes to that, I have two answers. One is to read the manual for Blender. Two is just to watch the video really step by step and try to make something really simple first and get that to work. And once you've got something simple working, then apply the idea to something more complex. Because sometimes it's really just making sure you click everything in the correct order to get these things to work. It can be a little tricky. Okay, so that's the fluid simulation. And the final thing I've got in the scene, I left this quite subtle, is I made a smoke system. And my smoke system, if I play my simulation here, you can see that it doesn't really do much in the beginning, and then towards the end I've got this kind of ghostly green smoke that rises up like it's I don't know, something out of the Lord of the Rings or something like that. So usually smoke simulations are done for, explosions or fire, so the smoke might be a little darker and a little thicker and maybe blowing in the wind or something like that. If you look at the tutorial that I've attached, in the description of this video, they make a more conventional, darker smoke simulation. I just made this green and transparent and weird because I wanted to do everything in one video, and if the smoke was too thick, you wouldn't be able to see all this stuff in the end. So sometimes, if you want to have smoke or atmospheric effects, when I first made this video, I had the smoke really thick, and basically when the smoke came up, you couldn't see anything. So that was my decision to go for this transparent green smoke. Okay, so that's the end of this video. As I said, I will link 3 different tutorials in the description of this video, one for particles, one for fluids, and one for smoke. And if you want to try any of those out, go for it. And I'd love to see some of that work appearing in your exercise number 3. And of course, if this becomes something you want to use in your major creative assignment, I'd be happy to discuss any of these in more detail with you. Okay, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.